everyone, welcome to the Crafty Pixie. I'm B. Thank you so much for stopping by. Last week's video was a bit rough. I'm learning. It's not something that comes naturally to me, so this is a learning experience. I love to learn, so it's gonna be really fun. But I want to thank everyone who stopped by to watch the video. That meant so much to me. Thank you all for subscribing that subscribed. I can't wait to see you comment and bring some inspiration to you in this crazy world that we live in. Please, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you can see when I upload every Wednesday. So our project for today is something that I had experimented with a little bit not too long ago. I love to find patterns and do things that aren't always the norm, and I found Spencer Ogg's website. It is fantastic. I will link it in the description box below so you can see it. They have a travel organizer or a car organizer, whichever way you want to use it. It's great. It's nice and long, so it holds registrations really well. It's got this nice little elastic that holds everything. If you want it, you don't even have to use it. It's just something that I really like. So it's got a nice big pocket right here, and then it's got a vinyl pocket right here split in two, so you can put like your car insurance card in right here, or your AAA card, or your towing card, whatever, what have you. And then down here you can do, your passport if you're, when we start traveling again. It's great. It's nice and sturdy, but it's still not bulky, I guess you could say. It was my first experience using vinyl for the pocket. It wasn't too bad. I mean, it was okay. I'll use it again, definitely. I used quilt cotton for the outside and for the lining and pocket. Like I said, you can use the elastic, you can leave the elastic off. I'll show you how to put the elastic in so it's in there for you. Give you some tips and tricks and things like that, and then you'll have your very own, or if you want to make it for a friend or a family member. The one I'm going to be making in the tutorial today is going to be for a family member. I tend to make a lot for the family. They're always looking for something interesting, and my family really likes homemade gifts, and since I absolutely love sewing, it's a great opportunity to use it. So don't forget, leave comments in the comment section below. I can't wait to hear from you. So let's get some materials and get going. First things first, we're going to need to print out our pattern pieces. When you print them out, make sure you print them at 100% or turn your scaling off on the printer settings. When you print it, you can use this test square right here. It is 1 inch by 1 inch. If it is 1 inch by 1 inch, you've printed it correctly. On the pattern piece for the vinyl, you need to mark this line on the vinyl. You can use a chalk pen, soap, a marking pen, pencil, a normal pen, anything that's going to outline this line for you. You're going to need it. You're going to need these wonderful Wonder Clips. I wouldn't use pins for this project. You're going to leave holes in the vinyl if you do. And you're going to need elastic. I have a 1/4 inch wide elastic here, cut to the size in the pattern. I am going to be using a needle and thread today when we are attaching some stuff temporarily. And then if you have a silicone presser foot with your machine, you will use that for the vinyl. If you don't have one, a nice little trick is to stick some like masking tape on the back of the presser foot, because when you are sewing with vinyl, it's going to stick, which means your lines are not going to come out right. When you are doing the pattern pieces, you are going to have to attach a few of them. So when you do that, when you cut on the outside of the black line, and then you're going to butt the black lines together. You don't want to overlap them, because if you overlap them, the pattern measurements are going to be off. For the interfacing, the fusible lightweight interfacing, I'm using SF101 today. And then for the firm interfacing, I'm using the Peltex Ultra Firm Sew-In. All right, on to the first step. First step is to fuse the lightweight interfacing to your pocket pieces and your lining and outer fabric pieces. So for fabric, you've got two sides. You've got the pretty side, and then you've got the not so pretty side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the SF101 and we're going to center it onto the back. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, perfection is not real. There's no such thing, and there never will be. As close as possible is as good as you're gonna get. So once we center it, we're going to carefully flip it right side out, or right side down, or wrong side down, sorry. And we're going to take our iron and we're going to press so that we fuse the interfacing to the fabric. Now on the fusible interfacing, you have a soft side, and then you have, on some of them, you have like a side that has small bumps on it, or you have a rougher side. The rougher side is the side with the glue, which is going to be the part that is touching the fabric. So we're just going to make sure it's good to go. Again, I am using quilt cotton today. I find that it is the best one for this. And we're going to flip it over. We're going to test it to make sure. Yeah, we are good to go on that one. And then you're going to do the same to the lining piece and to the pockets, centering it as you go. Here's the pocket piece. And you will notice that the lining piece is a little bit smaller. That helps with the seam line, so the seams are not too bulky. And you don't have to hold it too long. I usually hold it for 4 or 5 seconds. And that seems to work well for me. Make sure. All right, I'm going to do the other pieces and I will be right back. Next step, we're going to take pattern piece B and its corresponding fabric. And we're going to fold it in half so that the wrong sides are facing each other. And we're going to press. Then we're going to open it up. And we're going to fold each end toward that crease that we just made, like that, on both sides, and we're going to press. And we're doing this so that the raw edges are going to be sealed inside of the fabric when we work with it, so that you don't have any fraying on the edges. Once we do that, we're going to fold on that line again. And we're going to press it again. And then what I like to do is I always like to put them back with the pattern piece so that I don't get confused or lose them. And then we're going to do the same thing for pattern piece A. Careful, irons are very hot. I learned the hard way. Another way you can do this is you can also, with a ruler and a marking pen, you can mark the center point and then fold the ends up. I find that that takes a lot more time, and I'm just not that patient. Once you've put those aside, you're going to grab pattern piece number 1, which is your fabric pocket, and you're going to set it right sides facing. Now, if you have a directional pattern or like little designs or anything, make sure that when you are putting these right sides together, that it comes out the way you want it in the end. So when you are looking at the finished piece, it's going to look like this. So the opening to the pocket's going to be over here. So this is going to be my top piece. And then this is going to be my bottom. So once we do that, you're going to pin the V here. I always, when I pin, I do one end and then I do the other, and then I finish in the middle. Again, you can use as many clips as you want or as few as you want. I've seen some people not use any pins or clips at all and just kind of go with it. When you take it to the sewing machine, you're going to use a 2.5 stitch length, and you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you're just going to sew along this straightaway, down the V, pivot when you get to the corner, and then come up the other side. Always backstitch at the beginning, at the end, and then you will be good to go. I'm gonna go do that and I will be right back. All right, once the sewing is complete, we're gonna come in and we're going to cut little lines going up the sides here, to about here on each side. Be careful when you are cutting that you do not cut your stitches. Well, this is going to help when you turn the fabric right side out. It's going to help make the line nice and smooth for that seam, because this is going to be seen and you want to make sure it looks as nice as possible. You know, when you start traveling again, or going and renewing your registration in the DMV or anything like that, and you bring this in with you, people are going to notice, because it's something that's homemade, so they don't see it all the time, and they're going to be very intrigued. So you want to try to make it look as best as possible, and it's definitely something that you can really customize to make your own. All right, so once that is done, just like that, make sure you do not cut your stitches. Once that's done, we're going to fold it right side out, and we're going to push up like that. And then you're going to roll it so that your seams are as smooth as possible. See how nice of a curve that looks? And then we're going to take our iron and we're going to press it. Pressing is very important when you're making anything, whether it's clothes or bags or anything like that. It makes it look so much more professional in the end, because your lines are so crisp when you're done. And it also helps with the thread. It kind of seals it, as you can say. So now that that's nicely pressed, you're going to take it back to the sewing machine and you're going to top stitch along this whole edge. You're going to do, like, I would say 1/8 inch seam allowance, and you can use a 3mm stitch length. I will be right back. Alright, now that you have top stitched everything and cut any extra threads that you may have, we're going to take the iron and we're going to press it one more time. And there you go. Don't you see how nice that looks? Nice crisp seam there. And we're going to set this aside. Next, we're going to take pattern piece A. Now this isn't in the pattern, this is just something that I like to do. Since we are not folding this in half again, we're leaving it like this so that the raw edges are in the center. I like to come across and I like to do a stitch right along both sides so that the fabric stays in one piece for one, so it doesn't warp out of its shape. And it also gives you a guideline of where to sew when we're attaching it to the next piece. So when you go to the sewing machine, just do a nice one, you know, like a 1/4 of an inch in on both sides. Sometimes what I do, especially since this is a really tiny piece of fabric, is I like to use my little stiletto tool. It's great. It gets in there so that you can hold the fabric so that it doesn't get stuck inside of your sewing machine. And then especially when you come to the end, you can use that as the finishing guide. So I'm going to go over to the sewing machine. I'm going to do that and I will be right back. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to press it again. So it's nice. And then you're going to take your vinyl pocket You can faintly see the line that I made. It's probably really hard. It's probably like really full of glare. But you're going to take your fabric piece. You're going to do it pretty side down so that the raw edges are facing up. And you're going to align this line with the line on your fabric. Just like that. Okay, now you're going to have it flush against this side of your vinyl, and then you're going to have a little hanging over here. That's fine. Actually, it's going to be this way because we're going to be flipping it. Now this next step, if you are an experienced sewer and you are comfortable, you don't have to do this next step. I will be doing the next step just because vinyl is really slippery and it's hard to keep things straight, and you want it to be, you know, as straight as possible. So we're going to take the clip and we're going to clip it here. And then we're going to take another clip and we're going to clip it right over here in the corner, like that. And we're going to flip it over so that when it's sewn down in a later step, it's going to look like this. You're going to take your needle and thread and you're just going to do a quick basting stitch. And what this is going to do, it doesn't have to be pretty, it'll come out in the end, but what it's going to do is it's going to keep the fabric here so that when you are sewing the rest of the pieces, it's not moving all over the place. So you're just going to punch through the back. And I mean punch, sometimes it's a little bit difficult with the vinyl. And you're just going to come across like this. Like I said, it doesn't have to be pretty. You're not starting way at the beginning over here, and you're not going way to the end over here. We're just kind of doing the middle so it stays in place. Careful with your finger. I have poked myself I don't know how many times. This also helps to keep the fabric flat on the vinyl as well. This is the only experience that I've had with vinyl so far. I tend not to experiment too much yet. I'm still getting more comfortable with doing little projects. You know, I used to make clothes and little things like that, but now I'm venturing into this, making handbags, things like that. So there's a few different techniques. Some of this stuff is the same, but I'm still getting used to different kinds of fabric and material to work with. So we are about there. We're going to come back here and we're going to do just one little knot. And that way it's going to pretty much stay in place. Next step, you're going to take pattern piece B. I'm going to press this one more time so it's nice and crisp for the next step. Let the fabric cool a few seconds. Another huge tip, you never ever want to iron vinyl. It will melt. I promise, I've done it. So then we're going to take and open it in half, and we're going to place the vinyl piece right inside, and we're gonna butt the vinyl piece right against that fold right there in the middle, like so, and you're gonna press it all the way to the middle so that when you feel here, the vinyl piece is right at the edge. And we're going to clip it in place. And then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine. And you're going to do 1/8 inch seam allowance, and you're going to go right across this side of the fabric. It's going to come right down like that. All right, and you're going to backstitch at the top and at the bottom. So I'm going to go do that, and I will be right back. Okay, once that's done, you're going to come through and you're going to do the same 1/8 inch seam allowance, and you're going to come across the outside here, connect and follow your existing seam right here, and then come down the side. When you do this, it is going to line up with the stitching that you've already made here if you did my extra little step that I like to do. Once that's done, you're going to come through with any eyeglass cleaner or anything, and you're going to wipe the inside here because you've been touching it, so all the oils from your fingers are on there, and it's going to be very hard to do later if you don't do it now. I mean, none of you want little fingerprints on your stuff forever. So I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and do my stitching, and then I'm going to clean it, and I'll be right back. Now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the basting stitches that we made if you used them. So you should just have to clip and then pull. You can use a seam ripper for this, you can use your scissors, doesn't really matter. Okay, and then we're going to take our lining fabric, and we're placing it right side up, so the pretty side up. And then we're going to line the vinyl pocket along the left side, the bottom, and the top. Just like that. And then we're going to clip. Just like that. All right, just like that. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to follow the stitches that we've already made along this piece of fabric. So you're going to start here, you're going to back stitch, you're going to come follow the seam line you've already made along the side and across the bottom. This is going to connect your pocket to your lining, so you're going to have two pieces that you can use. Okay, so once you do that, we'll come back and we'll continue. I will be right back. All right, now that that is done, as you can see, now you have two pockets. All right, we're gonna come through and we're gonna clip this little tail right here. So we're gonna cut it so it is flush with the rest of the fabric. Ta-da! All right. Now, in the pattern, it does say that you can baste, hand baste along this seam. I don't like doing that because it leaves holes and sometimes you can see the pull when you're finished. So I don't like doing that. But the next step, we're going to take our pocket and we're going to line it up top, sides, and bottom as even as you can. And if you're a little bit short, it's okay. It's not going to affect anything too badly. So you're gonna clip here and here. And then you're going to take your needle and thread that we used to baste this small piece here, and we're going to baste along the side, or the top and bottom of the side of the pocket. We're going to do this because when we flip this right side out, when we're almost done, you're going to need an opening to do so. So what we're going to do is we're going to baste along here and then down at the bottom. You're gonna leave a pretty good gap there so that we can pull everything right side out. There's a lot of fabric here and everything, and you don't want to break your seams or rip the fabric when you're turning everything right side out. So we're gonna just come through, and you want to make the basting stitches as close to the edge of the fabric as you can, because these are not going to come out. These are going to stay in, and you don't want them being seen in your final project. So you're just gonna come through like this. I know I'm such a slow sewer. It takes me so long to do anything. I don't like to give myself timelines. Some people are all like, oh, I'm gonna finish this in a weekend. No. No, that doesn't happen with me at all. depending on, you know, what's going on in my world, you know, in everyday life, depending on how I feel, depending on the weather, you know, it just doesn't always work out that way. So I don't even do that and then make myself miserable when I don't get it done. Make the knots. Then we're going to come back through and we're going to baste the bottom portion. Alright, just a few stitches. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super neat. You just want them to hold the fabric in place while you are manhandling it to get your finished project done. Alright, once that's done, it's going to look something like this. And we're going to set that aside. You're going to come through with your fashion outside fabric. Make sure if it's directional, you have it in the position that you want, because you're not going to be able to fix it in the end. So when you are looking at it and the project is done, it's going to fold like this, so that when you open it, it's like that. So you'll have the pocket over here and you'll have the vinyl piece pockets over here. Okay, so make sure you've got it the way you want it. Next step, we're going to mark the positions to place the elastic for the closure. You don't have to use elastic if you don't want to. You know, you can just kind of leave it open. But I like the elastic. It adds a little bit more security in case, you know, you're traveling or whatever. So per the directions, we're going to mark 1.5 inches in. You can use a marking pen, you can use chalk, you can use a bar of soap if you want. I'm going to use the little marking pen. Just line it up and then just make a little line. Then you're going to do the same thing to the bottom, 1.5 inches in. Okay. And now with your elastic, cut to the measurements per the pattern. You're going to take it. Now I cut mine off of a big spool that I have, and I always lightly burn the edges, which seals it so it doesn't fray. And I'm going to take one end and I'm going to lay it right on top of the mark I made. Just like that, and pin. And I'm going to take the bottom piece and lay it right on top of the bottom mark that we made. And we're going to pin. Now you're going to have this little opening, that's fine. What I like to do, and what it suggests in the pattern, is tape it down. Make it as flat as you can so that when you sew it and you're turning it right side out, you're not getting caught on it. And the tape will come right off of the fabric when you're done. I know it seems a little odd, but it's really, really helpful. Okay, so just like that. At this point, this is what you should be seeing. So what we're gonna do is take our outer panel with the elastic on the right side and your inner pocket with the vinyl on top of your elastic, like so. Match it up. You're gonna pin. Make sure you keep your elastic where it is. Okay, you're going to pin all the way around and you're going to stop where your opening is. Do not stitch here. Alright, and you're going to go to the sewing machine and you're going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. And you're going to come all the way around. Make sure you do not sew this opening or you're not going to be able to turn it right side out. Go over to the sewing machine, do a 1/4 inch seam allowance and go all the way around, and we'll be right back. Alright, so now we've done the stitching along the outer edges, making sure you leave that opening here. We're going to come through and we're going to trim any extra right here. And we're going to come and we're going to clip the edges. You do not want to clip your stitches. Please be careful. Get as close. Just don't clip them. And then you're going to come through and you're going to clip just the sides. This is a suggestion she has in the pattern, so that you have square corners when you're done. Another suggestion in the pattern is you can come through and you can split the seam like this and then come through and trim this inner section here so that when you flip it right side out, you're not going to have as much bulk on the seams. I don't think it's too bad, so I leave it alone. Next step is we're going to turn everything right side out. Just like this. Make sure that you don't do it the wrong way with the pocket. It takes some maneuvering because you have the interfacing here, you've got all of the fabric, and then you have the vinyl. So please, please be careful. You don't want to rip your seams or anything like that. Take it slow. It's not a race. I think we all move a little quickly nowadays. And a lot of the times it's not needed. All right. So we got that. Ta-da. Always come through and push the corners out so it's as square as possible on all of them. If you need a little help, you can use like a chopstick or the end of like your paper pattern cutting scissors. Just be careful that you don't poke a hole through the fabric. I have done that. It's not fun. Pop it all the way out. Like so. If the tape comes off of this, of where you did the elastic, that's fine. Okay, this is what you should see when you're done. You can iron it if you would like. Just be careful. Like, see, I'll iron like this side. Don't iron the vinyl, you will melt the vinyl. Just roll it with your fingers. I am talking from experience with the vinyl. The first one of these I made, I ironed the vinyl. Alright, so everything's like that. Alright, give it a nice pressing where the vinyl is not. And then we're going to come through and we're going to top stitch so that we can seal. In the pattern, she does give you another option where you can do a blind stitch instead. I like the top stitch. I like how it makes it look finished, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. If you do, you just fold over the sides. And then we're going to top stitch at 1/8 inch seam allowance all the way around. Right, be careful when you are, if you are doing that route, be careful of your elastic. Make sure you pull it out of the way so you don't get into it. Okay, let me go do that and I will be, oh. Before you do that, I almost made a big mistake. Before you do that, you're going to take your ultra firm sew-in interfacing, very important, and you're going to fold it in half lightly. Might have to do it a little bit more. And you're going to push it through the opening that you left. Like so. And once it's in there, you're going to unfold it so it is the length of the project. And then once you do that, then you can come through and you can top stitch everything closed. Let me go do that, and I will be right back. Alright, once you are done top stitching, it will look like this. I almost made that same mistake when I did my first one. Sometimes I just get so excited that I'm close to the end and I can't wait to see it finished that I just kind of lose my place a little bit. But we avoided it, so now it's nice and sturdy. And what we're going to do is we're going to come through and we're going to iron. Again, make sure you do not iron the vinyl. It will melt. Another option, if it's just really wrinkled and you really want to make it as seamless, as professional looking as possible, you can take a pressing cloth and you can flip it so that the vinyl is down and your outer fabric is on top, and with no steam and light heat you can come through and you can put the pressing cloth on top and do it that way. I don't have a pressing cloth and mine's not too wrinkled, so we're just gonna skip that for right now. But once that's done, now we're going to do a center seam right along the center of this. It's going to help it when you fold. So it's going to fold nice and straight along this edge because the firm interfacing makes it kind of difficult. So this is going to seal the interfacing to the fabric, and it's going to give you a nice seam to close through. So what you can do is you can come here and you can take your ruler and measure it. Mine's about 10 inches. So you're going to come through, and in your center mark, you're just going to mark right down the center, or you can eyeball it, whichever one you want to do. Again, perfection doesn't exist. And then go over to the sewing machine and you're just going to stitch right down the center line, and then we will be right back. Alright, we've stitched our center stitch line here. And everything is good. So we're going to come on through. We're going to press one more time just to finish what we just did. And then you are done. Ta-da! Voila! Alright, absolutely beautiful. Great job. I hope you like this. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions for videos that you may want to see in the future, leave them in the comment section down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye!